Nobody's getting fired, but nobody's getting hired. These are all not the same kind of safe. Right now, the labor market can look calm for one direction and difficult from another. If you already have a job or already have a team, the layoff data looks relatively stable. But if you are trying to get hired, move up, or make a payroll decision, the picture can feel much harder. That is what the data says before Friday's official employment report. So who am I and why does this matter? My name is Donnell Martin. I am the CPA and I run Gevity Advisors, where I help business owners read financial information as decisions, not just headlines. I'm a CPA, but I'm not your CPA. This is education, not advice. And before we get to an opinion, I want to be precise about the facts. The latest data does not say the job market is collapsing. It also does not prove every worker or household is experiencing the same strong economy. It says something more useful. The labor market is moving less than it used to. I want to get into what I call the low churn data. Let's start with the official churn data. In June, the hire rates were 3.4%. The average in 2019 was 3.87%. Also, the quits rate was 2%. It has not printed above 2% since June 2025. The 2019 average was 2.32%. And the layoffs were 1.1%, below the 2019 average of 1.21%. So the honest summary is this. Everything is moving less than it did in 2019. Fewer hires, fewer quits, and fewer layoffs. That is not the same as a weak labor market. It is not the same as a strong labor market either. It is a low churn market. If you already have a position, low layoffs can feel like stability to you. If you're trying to enter, change jobs, or negotiate, lower hiring and lower quitting can feel like friction. And here is part of that friction that you can measure. More than 1 in 4 unemployed Americans, 27.3%, have been looking for 27 weeks or longer. That's 6 months and counting. A year ago it was about 23%. That is 1.9 million people. The door out of a job is not the problem right now. The door in is a slow one. Let's talk about the ADP report. On Wednesday, ADP reported 44,000 private sector jobs added for July. That matters, but it matters in a very specific way. ADP counts private payroll from its own client base. But Friday's number is going to be the official government number. And in 4 of the last 12 months, they did not even agree on a direction. The bigger question is whether or not people are still being hired, whether they are moving, and whether workers have enough mobility to change their situation that they're in. I was listening to CNBC, and the Wells Fargo CEO said something rather interesting that I wanted to share with you guys. He said the bank's headcount was down 79,000 over the last decade, down 15,000 over the past year, and down 7,500 over the last quarter. But what caught my attention was when he alluded to saying that long decade decline in job growth was not due to AI, which is totally different than a lot of other companies are insinuating. But he also emphasized redeployment and attrition. And he said that he does not want to cut jobs. Separately, he talked about AI eventually catching up and possibly eliminating future job positions. That is not a national labor statistic. To be fair, it is one's own CEO's operating perspective. But it shows the exact tension a business owner should understand. A CEO can say the economy is strong, while also describing attrition, redeployment, and AI-driven reductions in future positions. That is low churn from the employer side. Just want to talk about the paycheck side. Average hourly earnings are up about 3.5% year over year. However, consumer prices are up about 3.5% year over year. That means the average Paychecks purchasing power is relatively flat year over year. For the typical full-time worker, real median weekly wages were up about 0.5%. Now, to be fair, that is positive, but it's a thin line. And that aggregate number doesn't specify how all households are being impacted by this. That leads to the question, not the conclusion. If the top line economy looks resilient, are all workers and households experiencing the same economy? The Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent this week said that the K-shaped economy is over and described as a C-shaped economy. But on the same show, the counterpart was that calling it over may be premature. So here is the part that matters. The Atlanta Fed's wage growth tracker shows that in June, the lowest wage quartile had the slowest 12-month wage growth, 3.6%. The highest quartile was 3.9%. That does not prove that every story about the economy is wrong. It does mean a broad claim about who is benefiting has to match the underlying wage data, not just the headline. So here is the Fed context without overstating it. The Federal Reserve held its policy at 3.5 to 3.75%. The vote was 9-3, so it wasn't unanimous. The 3-point dissenters wanted a 1/4 point increase. So clearly those were not votes for cuts. The final statement says job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has changed a little. That language matters. It is one reason why the Friday's report should not be reduced to one headline. The labor market can keep unemployment relatively stable while hiring, quitting, participation, and revisions tell a more complicated story. So for me personally, for the Friday's watch list, which would be August 7th of 2026, at around 8:30, the official employment data comes out. Here's what I'll be reading, and none of it starts with the headline. First, the revisions. Usually there's always revisions in this data, and I can give you some examples. May's payroll moved by 74,000 in one release. The benchmark revision took 911,000 off of that level. The first print is a draft. Second, the participation rate, and this is extremely important to me as well, as this is key in the healthy pipeline of workers. Unemployment only counts people who are still in the workforce. I want to see whether people are coming back into the workforce or staying out. The third point is the second decimal, whether unemployment stays at 4.2%, as that certainly matters more than any other forecast. The fourth point that I'll be looking at is wages against inflation. And this is what I was referring to before regarding purchasing power of the paycheck versus inflation. And that is that paycheck line, not just the jobs line. And fifth, I'll be looking at hours worked. If companies are cautious, they can cut hours before they cut people. The Fed can explain what data it watches without promising the exact rate path that they'll take. So here is the 10-minute version. Friday morning, before you read any headline, open the BLS report itself and read 2 lines. The revisions paragraph and the participation rate. It's free and public. It won't tell you what to do. It tells you what actually changed. So here's the owner takeaway. If you're running a business, do not let one headline dictate your hiring plan. Ask 3 questions. Do I have enough demand visibility to add payroll? Is my team underutilized or overextended? And what data would make me hire, hold, or reduce capacity? The labor market can be calm on the outside and hard to move through underneath. It's safe to say that it's not the same as easier to enter for a lot of people that are looking for roles. Low layoffs are not the same as a healthy mobility for people. And a strong headline is not the same as a strong situation for every worker, household, or business. Friday's report may change the current picture, but we all know it will not change the discipline. So I tell you guys, please read the revisions, read the participation, read the wages, and then make your decision. We're in this dilemma where nobody's getting fired, but nobody's getting hired. So is it safe? I'll be traveling on Friday when the report comes out. I'll leave the read through in the pinned comments. after the numbers are released when I have time to get to my laptop. If this content was useful for you, then please follow along. And if you're building a business and you want to make better financial decisions, that's the work that we do at Gevity. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, and until the next one, take care.